Okay, let me adjust the volume. Okay, I have to lower this stuff, so I'm not gonna hurt your guys' ears. Anyway, okay, so I know this isn't really the right shirt to wear since I'm reviewing, well, Blinded by the Light, as you can see from the title thing at the bottom. I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna do a review next week. There won't be a review because I have another video in mind to advertise what I plan on doing in the summer, which I know it's ways away, but I'll give you guys that preview I've been mentioning. So the first thing I want to say is that at the point I'm recording this, this is actually the 5 year anniversary of my YouTube channel. And it started with me making a pretty embarrassing video where I um, said rap was evil. But yeah, that I'm gonna have to delete that video because people are gonna get a very unflattering impression of that. So that video is gonna get deleted after I post this. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna worry about it too much. And I've wasted a minute and a half, but yeah, 5 years. So it would be more fitting if I was doing a video based around Bob Seger, since that was my first cover on YouTube. But instead, let's get to this movie. I think I've wasted enough time rambling. So for those of you who, I mean, the plot was pretty much explained in the trailer. That this movie, Blinded by the Light, was about this teenage kid who's Pakistani, and he's kind of trying to break out of his father's vision of how someone should live their life in the culture. And this kid Javed lives a miserable life. He's bullied. He feels like he has no voice. He writes poems, but no one really knows about it. But his friend introduces him to Bruce Springsteen, and you know what? Hold on a sec. I'll be right back. I know I said, yeah, man, I should have worn this shirt today. Considering what I'm talking about, and I know that this is going to be even weirder, and I cannot cut this part out, but I'm just going to keep talking until I end up back on camera. And okay, much better. Unfortunately, this isn't on Power Director, so I don't really know how I can edit that chunk of the video out. So I apologize in advance. Anyway, so Javed becomes a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, and I'm starting to wonder. And anyone who's watching this video, please tell me if this is the case. When I talk about Bruce Springsteen and music, if you've seen the movie, do I sound that crazy and obsessive? Um. Anyway, but no, the movie, the reason when this movie came out in theaters, I didn't really want to see it at first because I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, I know exactly how this is gonna go, and you can tell by the trailer. It's no mystery. This kid's gonna be miserable. He's gonna find Bruce Springsteen's music. He's gonna go to this crazy high and have a lot of possibilities. There's gonna be a big dramatic fall where things fall apart, but then they resolve and people are able to make amends and move on at the end. Um, so that was kind of the reason why I didn't want to see it in theaters, because I was like, why would I want to drive off to a building to pay money to see something once or twice if I know what it's going to be like? But when I watched it, and this is kind of an interesting thing that in the trailer it looks like it's going to be nothing but Springsteen music throughout the movie. The movie's like 2 hours long. Uh, I'd say probably about 20, 25, 30 minutes of the movie, you don't really hear Bruce's music because it's more building up the unsatisfying life that Javed has to live and how he feels like his father's being a little too controlling and very set in his ways. But I think the one thing I really do love about the movie is that this is loosely inspired by a true story, and the way this movie is kind of done is that there are times where it seems grounded, but then there are times where it has this kind of goofy, upbeat tone throughout most of it. It's almost like a musical. There's at least two musical numbers in there, and I would say when they start playing the Springsteen music, it's played at a point where this isn't a dramatic low point, but this is kind of at the part where um, Javed, his spoilers, his father gets laid off from this auto plant, and Javed is listening to these Springsteen tapes. This is set in '87 when cassette tapes were still a thing. Well, more of a thing than now. Anyway, so he's listening to the music, and I really liked how they used certain lyrics from Dancing in the Dark and the bulk of The Promised Land and having the lyrics pop up on screen or on things in the background. It seemed like a very artistic music video, and it was very pleasing. And that kind of leads me to one of my major complaints about the movie is that the musical scenes, which are a lot of fun, I just would have liked it a lot more if the actors weren't terrible singers. I mean, they're not supposed to be good singers, but there are some points in this movie where they do sing. The characters do sing lyrics to get a point across, and it does seem kind of cheesy and a little cringy, especially when Javed starts singing "I'm not a boy, no, I'm a man." It's like, okay, you had this really awesome scene, and it kind of got dinged because the kid had to sing a few lines of the song. So there are a few moments where it's kind of cringy but kind of charming in a way. I know those are kind of weird words to put in the same sentence, but what are you gonna do? Um, and I will say this: the movie also does have a lot of scenes where there's some racist content, and it's played out in a way where it's kind of like there are some tensions there. Like Javed's girlfriend Eliza, her parents are kind of ignorant of the fact that Javed is Muslim and therefore does not drink wine. Uh, and the Eliza's dad's like, you know what? I'm just gonna pour you a glass, and we'll just say it didn't happen. Okay. Or that there are scenes where people, try to, well, a lot of people try to force and intimidate Javed and you know, his a few of his friends because I was like, he really it is kind of a timely sort of thing in a way because I know it takes place in '87, but considering some of the racial tensions that we have now, it's alarmingly fitting by today's standards. And I like how the racial stuff, it's there, but it's not clobbering you over the head with it. But it's done at the right amount of intensity depending on what the scene requires. And another thing I like about the movie is that it uses the Springsteen music to help move along the story. Because again, Javed in the first scene, you have the line from Dancing in the Dark where he's like, I'm tired and bored with myself. I want to get out of this dump. And then it's been a while since I've heard listened to Dancing in the Dark, so I probably botched the lyrics a little bit, which is kind of crazy. And I think one example that there are a few points. There is one song that they do use in there. It's a great song, but I don't really see why they used it in the context they did. They used the song "Backstreets" in a scene where Javed is trying to get his foot in the door at the school newspaper. And the reason why I found that to be a very bizarre song choice was that Backstreets is more about a crazy summer adventure that ends with betrayal from your friend. This really isn't a betrayal necessarily. If there's a scene where Javed's friend Matt betrays him at a point when he wasn't expecting it to, that would have fit the song perfectly. But no, it kind of falls into the case of, well, we got this awesome song, let's just throw it in somewhere in the film. Um, and I'm trying to think of what else I can say here. Um, I will say this. The one problem I do have with the movie is that Javed's father is trying to plan out a wedding for his sister. They're hard up for money. They're making some, just not as much as they used to. And Javed, he gets a job at a newspaper, and he uses the money he earned to get tickets to a Springsteen concert for him and his girlfriend Eliza. And I'm just thinking, okay, I understand you want the tickets, but um, I mean, I understand why he did it, and I understand the family is still making some money, but considering the fact that they're struggling at this point, I think it would have been better if he had tried to help the family out more and get the tickets for the concert. But it does kind of highlight one of the major scenes where Javed explodes at his dad because his dad's just being the set. I mean, that because the thing about Javed's dad is that he's very conservative with the way, like I said, he's very much of the opinion, I was raised a certain way, therefore you have to follow in my footsteps exactly, and you'll like it. And a lot of it is a very strong coming of age story. And really, what this movie really reminded me of, it was kind of like October Sky in a way, in the sense that the son has his own goals and his own path that he's trying to accomplish with all of his might. And the dad is trying to shove him into the lifestyle that the dad's used to, you know? So, and then ultimately the son manages to the father son relationship does shatter at one point, but it does end up getting back together at the end, and it is kind of a nice moment where Javed and his dad do come together and they start to bond over the Springsteen music. And I think one thing that the last thing I'll say about this before I go on is the movie does have. I think what makes this movie work is that it is about the power of music and how it can effectively change your life for the better. It doesn't have to be Bruce Springsteen. It could be anyone. It could be Tom Petty. It could be Prince. It could be Bon Jovi. It could be whatever musicians are popular now. I know I'm 25 and I probably should know the popular guys out there now, but I don't. So I think this movie, it's great, but I don't. It's one of those movies where it's really well done. I'm not sure if it'd be considered a classic in the long run, but I mean, time will tell. I think it's a really good movie. A bit cheesy and a little cringy at times, but it's still likable and enjoyable enough that you can move on from it and just kind of enjoy the cool scenes and laugh at the embarrassing, cringy moments. So that is it. I will do my Bruce Springsteen cover on Monday, and I will give you guys the channel announcements next week. See ya.